Hello, and welcome back to Factorio. This is episode 21 of our Factorio 0.17 tutorial walkthrough Let's Play series. We've talked about Factorio versions before, and I'm bringing it up here because we're going to start working on oil. And oil underwent a very major change in 0.17.60. Now hopefully you're well past that by now, because the current stable version is 0.17.79, but if you're not, please make sure you upgrade to at least 0.17.60. Oil processing changed drastically, and what we're going to do is the post-change version of it. Now, oil processing is a complicated and multifaceted topic that we're going to discuss in very great detail because we need to make sure we've covered all of our bases. So let's go pick up some supplies. Previously, we built out parts of the mall that have to do with oil production. We don't need any more pump jacks because we've finished setting up the oil field, but we will want some chemical plants. We have, let's grab a few more tanks. We do want some more tank cars and locomotives, because we want to get some more trains onto the track. Most importantly, we need refineries. Let's pick up a stack of refineries. How are we doing on pumps? We can use more pumps. And we can always use more underground pipes and straight pipes. It's a lot, but we'll put them to good use. Let's drop off some stuff we don't need, like miners, because we definitely don't need those right now. And let's head out to where we're going to build our oil. Many people find oil to be very difficult to do when they're new, and there are a couple of parts to it. First, it's a fairly complicated topic, and the changes made in 0.17.60 that I mentioned go a long way to help with that. But second, there's a lot of changes to it that may need to occur as you develop further. One of our design goals with all this is to make our base future-proof. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is we have our bus with various resources continuing along so we can continue adding more things to the bus. We haven't added much in quite a while, but we will be soon. We've left room in this direction to expand this array. We've left room in this direction to expand this array. None of these are interfering with each other. We want to be able to do the same thing with oil. The problem is oil undergoes some major changes as we get new research. Let's take a look. If we look up oil processing, we currently have this technology here, oil processing. This unlocked our basic buildings and allows us to make basic oil processing and solid fuel. Once we have blue science specs, we can research advanced oil processing, and in fact this will be the very first thing we want to get when we get blue, which unlocks advanced oil processing, as well as heavy oil and light oil cracking, and some more ways to make solid fuel. The problem is, if we build a refinery system based on just what we can do right now, which is the basic oil processing recipe, we're going to have to completely tear it down and rebuild it once we unlock advanced oil processing and cracking. We don't want to do that. We want to future-proof. So, how do we do that? Well, we do that by leaving lots of space in particular locations. So, we're going to start small, but we want to have two things in mind. The first is that we want to make sure that we can easily convert from basic processing to advanced, and second, that we have plenty of space to expand. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to place a fuel dump. Let's take a look. We have lots of space to the right. Yeah. So this is where our oil comes in from the train. Let's move it over. Oh, that's as far as it'll go. Okay. So this is going to be our crude oil storage. And we're just using this as a little bit of additional buffer in addition to the train station. And from here, we're going to set up refineries. Now, we're going to set up 8 of them. And the reason we want to use 8 is because that gives us what we call a magic ratio. With basic oil, it doesn't matter, but with advanced oil, there's a ratio that we want, which is 8 to 2 to 7. You don't need to memorize that. If you go to the Factorio cheat sheet, I'll provide a link in the resources, but it's just factoriocheatsheet.com. This ratio is there. Now, there's a more accurate ratio, 20 to 5 to 17. We're not going to worry about that one too much. We're just going to start with the 8 for now. And what that ratio tells us is that we want 8 of these refiners, of these oil refineries, to 2 chemical plants doing one type of cracking, and to 7 chemical plants doing a different type of cracking, and we don't have any of those yet, so it's not something we need to worry about. So let's place one of these. Now, you will notice that it has 2 input pipes and 3 output pipes. Let's place a second one just so we can see it. As soon as we set the recipe, and right now we only have basic oil, you see that these go away, because these are only used in advanced oil. Now, we need to feed crude oil into here. If we do something like this, it'll work. But then we have no way of feeding the second pipe later when we need it. Similarly, on the output, we can do this, and that's fine, but then we're stuck for the next chunk. So let's not do that. So what do we do instead? Well, we do this. We're going to place one here, and 1, 2 there, and erase this one. And we're going to place this like so. And then we're going to go 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and we will delete these. And again. We need power, so we're going to put a power pole on either side of that, and why not a light on either side of that. And this is going to be our basic building block. We're going to feed crude oil into this pipeline, and later on, when we have advanced oil processing, we're going to feed water into this pipeline, and we're going to get petroleum out of this one, and later when we have advanced, we will get light and heavy oil out of these. The good news is these locations do not change. So, having developed this kind of basic block for our refinery, we're going to delete it and place it where we actually are going to place it. And the reason we are not placing it here is we need lots of room to expand. So we are going to need a pipeline running north-south here for our 3 products from the refinery, heavy oil, light oil, and petroleum gas. And we want to have the pipeline running here so that we can always build more factories going to the left, more refineries. So what we're going to do is we're going to say this is going to be our, let's say, petroleum. And this, they're not connected, is going to be our light oil. And this is going to be our heavy oil. And we don't care about these 2 right now. We're just going to work on petroleum. And from the petroleum station, we're going to place 2 pipes like this. And you know what? Let's rotate that one like so, and that one like so. Yeah, that looks better. And place a couple more tanks. And this is going to be our buffer for petroleum. This is going to be our petroleum pipeline for whatever we're doing. And here we don't want to spread the other ones out so far. So we're going to say this is our pipeline for, say, heavy oil. And this is our pipeline for light oil. Alright, well, we don't need to worry about these too much right now, but now we know where our pipeline is running. So we're going to place our basic refinery here, and we want to build 8 of them. Why 8? Because there is a specific ratio in which we want to build things. That was 6, 7, 8. And you don't need to memorize it. You can look on the factoriocheatsheet.com. I'll have a link to that in the resources. And the cheat sheet will give you these ratios. Once we have advanced oil processing and cracking, we're going to want to use initially 8 oil refineries for every 2 chemical plants cracking heavy oil and 7 chemical plants cracking light oil. We don't need to worry about. Now that we've placed the power poles and refineries, we could just run that. This is a little tricky. We don't need to build out all of it. We only care about the petroleum side right now. Likewise here, we only care about the crude oil side. Okay. Now, we are going to place a pump here, because this is going to be our output for the oil. We're not going to place pumps here because these tanks are buffers and we need them to work both in and out. If we're currently generating too much, say, petroleum, then we want to go in the tank. If we're generating too little or there's too much demand, we want it to come back out. However, this we need to take to here. Okay. That will get oil into our system. And let's power it up and see what happens. As you can see, oil is flowing. The refineries are running. You can tell because they've got these little flames on. And oh, we didn't hook up the output. So we want the output to connect to this pipeline, which is going to be our petroleum. And there's going petroleum into the tanks. Now, since we have this pipeline here, we can also use it as an electrical kind of backbone, as well as our pipelines here. And one of the things we can do with it is get some useful information on. I use some green wire to connect all this and that gives us two things. The first is later on we're going to want to use the quantities of things in these tanks for some control purposes. But right now it just lets us hold our mouse over one of these power poles and immediately see that we have 95,000 crude oil and 4.4 thousand petroleum in our tanks. And the nice thing is we can do this from across the map in map view. If we go over here, we can mouse over each of these individually to see what's going on. But if it was hooked up to a power pole, we could easily see all of it. Now here we could see all of it by mousing over the combinator as well and see that there's 141k. But we don't have a combinator handy here, so I like putting this information on these. Alright, now 8 is plenty for the moment, but if we need more, we can just keep going in this direction. We have quite a ways to go. Now, we need to reserve some space. And we're going to reserve some space in this fashion. We're going to leave one tile of gap here, and then make 2 spaces, and we're going to place a chemical plant. As you can see, the chemical plant has 2 inputs, so we need 2 rows to get the inputs into it. Similarly, it has 2 outputs, so we are going to go 1, 2 for its outputs, 3, 4 for the inputs of the next one, and 1 to go in between. And then we're going to do the same thing again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, we don't actually need these chemical plants here. In fact, I'm going to delete them and just leave ghosts. Because this is, again, future-proofing. We just want to make enough space left. And again, we want to leave 1, 2, and then a third one as a buffer. And now we actually want to make things with our power plants. So, if we then go 1, 2 more, we have several things we can make here. And what we want to make right now is plastic, which is made from coal and petroleum gas. We want to make sulfur, which is made from water and petroleum gas. We don't want to make batteries or explosives right now, or sulfuric acid, because those are things we can make on the bus later on. We're also going to make solid fuel, initially from petroleum, but we're going to change that over very quickly. So the first thing we want is plastic. So we actually need to move this down 1 more in order to accommodate a belt of coal. So let's work on that. So if we're making plastic, we need to input petroleum, we need to input coal, and this has a 1 second crafting time, and we need 1 piece of coal, so it's fairly efficient, and we need to be able to pull out 2 plastic bars in that 1 second. And if we look here, the crafting speed is 1, so those numbers are actually accurate. So what we're going to do is we are going to place... Now, we could do this, right? But then we have to deal with feeding it. And as I said before, it's more efficient in terms of both UPS and oil flow to use undergrounds. We're going to place these here, just as we did with the refineries, and those there. And now we can run a belt here that's going to be our coal, and we're going to place an inserter to pick up from that belt. Similarly, we're going to run a belt here and get an inserter to output from that belt. Well, let's put it there, that's nice and balanced. And that's our block. So we want to fill this belt. This produces 2 plastic spars per second. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Power poles first, since they auto-place. Then use them as spacing for the chemical plants. Then use those as spacing for lights. Belts. Belt on the other side. Pipes. Underflows. Inserters. And insert. Okay. Now, let's bring down our bus. We need petroleum. We need power. Now, this of course will not work until we get some coal into here. So let's take a look at where we can get coal from. Well, we're still working with this tiny little patch of coal, and that's really all we have available to us. We're probably going to need to go get us some more coal soon. We have a big patch of coal up there. So I think fairly soon we're going to need to start, get a train up there and capture that coal. But for the moment, we can work from here. So, let's see what the best way to bring that in is. Probably right here. We have full trains waiting. Lovely. I actually decided I don't like where I placed these. I think I want to place them here. And because I want them to kind of wait not in the curve. So I'm going to switch them to manual, drive it back some. Switch it to manual, drive it back some. And the reason I did that is because I don't want to delete these while the trains are in front of them, because then they'll just go and collide with something. There. I think that's pretty. So back to automatic, and there they go. And they're both going to drop off their supplies, yes. Alright, where's our coal? We have our coal coming in right here. And it's being split to go to the smelters and to our base, and here's a perfect place to do it. So we will sneak it out. I think up here. This is not elegant, but again, it'll work. Let's see. This is dead. 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 That'll just clear that up. And this is definitely more spaghetti, but again, it's temporary. This one is dead. This one is dead. This one is dead. So we can take this. Let's see. Let's see, we want it... Yeah, let's bring it just below the rails here. Again, this is a temporary solution, and again, those are famous last words in Factorio. So we want it to come in right here, which of course is right in line with our lights here. That's convenient. And we gotta jump over this pipe. Alright, and our coal is coming in. So very soon we should get plastic. Now, usually we try to place things on both sides of the belt in order to use both, to use both sides of the belt. I don't really want to build a second row of these here, like this, because we have to deal with more piping, and with oil I find it's just easier to run a single column out. So what we're going to do is use a, not a lane balancer, but we're going to say it's going to take about 4 machines to fill one side of the belt. So we're going to put a splitter here, and we're going to do this, and we're going to tell it to output priority to the left. So, and as coal is coming in, so these machines are putting it on the right side, and these machines, they're putting it on the right side of the belt, but then the splitter is going to dump them on the left, and the splitter, the priority puts it on the left first, but if the left happens to back up but there's space on the right, it'll happily put it there. There's another similar technique you will see that people use where they do something like this. The problem here is this takes up more space. You need 1, 2, 3 squares rather than just 2. And it doesn't prioritize. If it so happens that the left side of the belt backs up, this stuff is just going to stop. It'll never go on the right side. Whereas this will behave much better. It's not a true lane balancer, but it is a nice tool here. Now, we want to get this onto our bus. And let's see. This is our iron. This is copper. This is going to be 2 lanes of steel and 2 lanes of gears. This is our stone products, so I think it's going to go in right into here. And I'm going to allot 2 lanes to plastic, because plastic we sometimes want a lot of. So we want it here. Now that's actually quite a ways down, but that's okay. We're going to bring this out to near here, and then take a hard turn. Did I place this on which? That's on this one. I actually want the next. That's a long way to go, but I don't really want to use trains to move this. It's not really far enough to make trains worthwhile. And remember, our goal was to have more smelting here and here, so this is not too bad. Maybe we could have put our oil field a little bit further down. Now, I think we have a forest coming up here that we're going to want to grenade our way through. Yep. Okay. This should be like so. This should be so. And we're going to bring this across at least as far as our bus goes, because plastic is, I believe, one of the things we're going to want on the bus. Let's take a look. And nope, we actually do not need plastic on the bus. Well, that's nice. We will need it for lots of others. Alright, so we have accomplished a great deal today. We have set up our basic oil refinery to produce petroleum gas. We can see that we've now converted. We now have 45,000 petroleum gas. Each of these tanks can hold 25, so we're not yet backed up. We can always build a few more if we need them. And as you can see, we're producing darn near a full belt of plastic. Now that is eating some of our coal, but not. It's fairly fast. So we're definitely going to need to worry about coal. I may bring coal in from here between episodes because we've seen how to do it here. It's basically exactly the same as what we did with the iron, so I may well do that between episodes. Now, why did we want plastic? Well, as we saw, the next thing we need is blue science. So let's take a look at what is involved in that. We need sulfur, which we haven't talked about. We have engine units, we know how to make them, but we need advanced circuits, the red ones. And red circuits use plastic bars, copper cables, and electronic circuits. Well, we've copper cables and electronic circuits we've got. We're going to need plastic bars, which means if in the next episode we can work on red circuits. Red circuits are hugely important. There's also never enough of them. That's what we needed. We didn't need plastic in our mall, but we do need red circuits because they will allow us to do things like the stack inserters here and a number of other things. All right, we've done a great deal today. We're producing petroleum gas. We are producing plastic, which is a vital resource for kind of the mid-game. And we've planned out our oil refinery area so that we can easily expand it and build more things into it. With that, I suggest you go try one of these yourselves, get some oil going, get some plastic going, and as always, don't forget to save.